Hello, and welcome to the 35th Annual Lunch with the Mayor. I'm Josh Beadle, the Executive Director of Waukegan Main Street, and on behalf of my Board of Directors, I thank you for viewing. As you can see today, things are a little bit different than normal. We've made a few alterations to our event. We won't have any lunch, but we'll still have the same great content. Before I introduce our host, I'd like to take a moment to say a few words about the past few months. The learning curve in 2020 has been incredibly steep, but I'm incredibly proud of all of our downtown businesses and organizations for being able to navigate this time with their heads held high. Downtown Waukegan is a resilient neighborhood made up of galleries, small businesses, nonprofits, governmental entities, and so much more. But at the end of the day, we're a group of people, a dedicated group of people who are interested in the best for our community. We were strong before this year, and we're even stronger now. I have no doubt that we will emerge stronger and better at the end of all of this. The Main Street approach is built on volunteers. It's a grassroots approach, with all of us working together to lift each other up. Throughout this year, that's exactly what I've seen in downtown. And that's exactly the approach that's going to get things done in downtown Waukegan. I would now like to introduce our host for this conversation with the mayor, Hal Coxon. He is the president of Northern Illinois Consulting, a public relations and marketing firm. He has a distinguished list of service to the community that extends for more than 40 years. In 2006, he was inducted as a charter member into the Lake County Civil Rights Hall of Fame. In January 2007, Hal earned the Freedom Award for his work in promoting social justice and employment opportunities. He has also received the Midwest Urban Empowerment Award for leadership in community outreach in 2009, and he is also a lifetime member of the NAACP. He has served on many volunteer boards during his career, including the Citizens Advisory Board for the University Center of Lake County, Mano a Mano Family Resource Center, Visit Lake County, and the Lake County Chamber of Commerce. In addition to his community outreach, Hal has moderated a number of high-profile political contests, most notably a roundtable meeting in the 2004 Democratic primary race for United States Senator, where one of the participants was our 44th President, Barack Obama. Mayoral elections in both Waukegan and North Chicago, races for the 30th Senate and 59th House districts for the state of Illinois, and many more. I now welcome Hal Coxon, our host for today.
Well, thank you very much for that kind introduction, Josh Beadle. Very much appreciated. Good afternoon and welcome to all of our YouTube guests. We're so excited to have you join us for Waukegan Main Street's 2020 virtual Lunch with the Mayor. Before we get started with today's program, I'm going to take a couple minutes to go over our format for today. I'll begin with an introduction of Mayor Sam Cunningham. He'll then have a few brief opening remarks. After the mayor's comments, we'll move to the question and answer portion of today's program. The questions are based on topics that you, the members of Waukegan Main Street, submitted in advance to the organization. As you may expect, we received a lot of duplicates and a number of similar questions, so where that was the case, we've done our best to combine them where appropriate so we can cover as many of your questions as possible. And then following the Q&A, our program will conclude with closing comments from Mayor Cunningham. So let's get started. On May 1, 2017, Sam Cunningham was sworn in as the 40th mayor of the city of Waukegan and its first African-American mayor, after Sam served 18 years as First Ward Alderman. Mayor Cunningham is a 2017 Jim Edgar Fellow, has earned the U.S. Minority Contractors Association 2017 Municipal Administrator of the Year Award, and is the recipient of the Illinois Black Chamber of Commerce Perrin J. Mitchell Outstanding Service Award. Sam is also a member of the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, the Waukegan Alumni Chapter. The mayor was born and raised right here in Waukegan's First Ward, graduating from Waukegan East High School, and earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration and Marketing from Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio. After graduation, Sam established his own small business as a licensed Illinois insurance producer and raised his family here, including daughters Sierra and Samantha. Mayor Cunningham is an avid sports fan, and during more normal times, he enjoys playing basketball at the local recreation center, golfing at Waukegan's fine municipal courses, attending cultural activities, and listening to live jazz and blues. Mayor Cunningham, we look forward to your opening remarks, especially your thoughts about the importance for the city, its businesses, and the residents to continue investing in the city of Waukegan. Please welcome Mayor Sam Cunningham.
Well, thank you, Hal. It is great seeing you in person. Wow, it's been a long time.
Appropriately socially distanced.
Yes, we are. I'm going to keep this kind of close to me. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Hal, and being the host here, and obviously to Main Street for their continued efforts in growing our community with our small business partners. As all of you probably know, and as mentioned earlier, taking the leap from alderman now to mayor into managing and leading through a pandemic has been somewhat difficult. But I think Josh said it earlier, the resiliency of our community has stepped forward again, and we are managing through this with that partnership of residents, business partners, other communities, along with staff, trying to really push through this unprecedented times in our country, our state, certainly in our county and city. I look forward to speaking with you about the various activities, issues that surround the Waukegan community. I look forward to presenting our vision, should I say my vision, of where I think we're at today and certainly where we're going to be going tomorrow. So with that being said, Harold, I think the introductions give enough about me. They know about you. Let's get right into this.
You got it. So we're ready to go.
Yes.
So it was mentioned by both Josh and you, the impact of the pandemic, and clearly that's been every area of society. And Waukegan Main Street's members are primarily small business owners, some not-for-profit, some governmental, et cetera. But each of them has been impacted by the coronavirus pandemic. So what specific steps is the city taking to balance public health with also the health of the business community to make sure that they survive the pandemic as well?
The first thing we had to do is this from a city standpoint. What did we do? We first moved to the lane in which this pandemic is in, and that is the medical lane. We certainly do not know all it is to know about this, nor are we equipped to know. So what did we do initially? We teamed up with the CDC, the Illinois Department of Public Health, our own Lake County Health Department, and we identified what are the guidelines. Then we partnered with our, from a national standpoint, obviously the President's office, the governor, and then myself. We put together a SWAT team of professionals who understand emergency management, was a part of the county emergency team. We had an in-house team that specifically focused in on this issue and how it affects the city of Waukegan along with our business partners. Those are the ground rules. Now what are we doing? Working with those national leaders from U.S. congressmen, U.S. senators, state legislators, state senators to bring funding, which they did through the various CARES Act, and I think the state of Illinois passed some other measures to funnel those dollars down to where? To local municipalities. And that went through either through the county to be the intermediary there, and then down to the cities. From our community development block grant, we received CARES dollars. We are, as you speak today, are aligning ourselves with agencies who can then push those dollars out unto the small business guy. That's the crust of where we're at. That is what I'm charged to do, along with the aldermen, is to make sure whatever funding that we can to get down to that, but more importantly, give them guidance on how to operate their business. And Harold, for the most part, for the most part, Waukegan, Illinois has been doing the things it needed to do. Here's the challenge. If you take a look at the workers that are in the grocery stores delivering the products to the various outlets, them who are in our restaurants, those are what we call essential workers. Guess where they live at? Waukegan, Illinois. The vast majority of them. And we do not shy away from that at all. Again, we are a very resilient community. But we had to go to a kind of different approach in how to manage through this crisis. 1, face coverings. 2, social distancing. 3, limiting the amount of people there in a small space. And constantly repeating all the time, here are the guidelines. They work. We have to adhere to them. And that has been the real leadership that we've been able to provide, along with the partnership, not just from our national leaders, but more importantly from our residents and the small business guy who's been affected by this. And we hear them. But we believe long term, if we stayed close to the guidelines, not close, if we adhered to the guidelines that have been put in place by the medical professionals, that we would be able to move through this process, through this pandemic, up until that vaccine, where we can get to normal times. And that's what we're leading to.
Now, Waukegan was very fortunate, Mr. Mayor. They were one of the first communities in the state that actually got one of the drive-through testing lanes. Initially up on Sunset, and now it's right here in downtown Waukegan, a couple blocks from where we sit. How important has that been to the effort of working through the pandemic?
You know, our ability to speak directly to Governor Pritzker's office and say, listen, on the northern part of the state of Illinois, we are the largest city who could definitely be affected because of our essential worker status. They heard us. And having that testing facility here has not just helped Waukegan, but it's helped that northern part of the state of Illinois. Again, it goes back to that partnership with the state officials, county officials, all working together, identifying where the best place to locate it. Unfortunately, through the state of Illinois Secretary of State's office needed the admissions center open again. We quickly moved to another location that's going to be feasible for all Lake counties, but more importantly, for that essential work community, Waukegan, North Chicago, Zion, eastern part of Gurnee, to be able to not only just drive through, but walk through, which made a heck of a difference within those essential communities. And it has been one of the best partnerships and relationships we've been able to establish with the state of Illinois, with the county of Lake, health department. Mark Pfister's doing a fantastic job over there. But more importantly, having a buy-in with our residents in Waukegan to know you must get tested. Our numbers are sometimes going to be a little bit higher than others, only because we are and know exactly where we're at as it relates to this pandemic. So these are exciting times in the managing and pushing through to that, knowing a vaccine is on its way.
And I can personally attest to the efficiency of that testing site. I had a fever back in July. Fortunately, it was not the coronavirus, but I did get tested there, and we were, by the time we drove into that parking lot to the time we were through the process, no more than about 10 or 15 minutes. So it was to the degree it could be a pleasant experience, it was a very effective and efficient experience.
Yeah, and I think a turnaround about between 48 to 72 hours of getting something back. And you know what, Hal? That's a relief. That is a relief from a broader view that, okay, yes, it's here, but the state, the county, and the city cares about us enough to have this right in our backyard. So we're certainly excited about it, but open to means it's not over. Just because you're tested doesn't mean not adhere to those guidelines that has been set forth by the CDC, Illinois Department of Public Health, and certainly our own Lake County Health Department, who are the leaders in giving us those guidance.
Now, switching gears to a completely different topic, in the past several months there's been an unusual amount of discord with the Waukegan Public Library. This happens to be one of the factors also important to me, the reading room, one of the reading rooms at the library is named for my parents, Al and Marty Coxon. So What have you been able to accomplish working with the board, working with the staff to kind of right the ship, so to speak, and move forward with the library?
Well, certainly, whenever you're on these boards where people are very passionate, and that's really what it was, a lot of passionate individuals about the direction of the board, the direction of the library, and some of the changes that need to happen as it relates to in today's environment. Our community of demographics here is certainly different than what it was 20 years ago. Heck, 10 years ago, Hal. And to your parents who saw that reading was a very fundamental thing that needs to happen in all children, in all communities. I think those emotions got the best of some of our board members, and it caused some discord. Obviously, those board members ultimately ended up resigning, and they resigned. God bless them. We love the commitment that they gave to that board over so many years. But I thought that was just a time to say it is time for me to move on, let others come from and build on what we have established, and that's what we've done. And we believe that as we move through this pandemic and move through where the library will need to be in order to bring up reading scores in our young men and young ladies, particularly that preschool and elementary school children. And as you said earlier, your mom and dad understood that. The core of what the library stands is still there. It is the approach in which we need to take in order to achieve the same results that we've achieved in the past. Could be a little bit different. And sometimes that brings, it's like our kids. You got to do it our way, but they say, Dad, Mom, we don't do it that way no more. I say, as long as we are on the same, sailing in the same direction, trying to achieve the same goal, and that's to have people love to read, comprehend, to build up their level of understanding that reading is a fundamental, I believe is a right. And as a little boy who struggled, I struggled in that. So having that here, as it is for you, it is for me, and I'm going to say the vast majority of our residents in Waukegan, they must understand, that the board must understand, we have a service to provide. It is their responsibility to do that. I believe that the new board members are getting themselves up to speed, setting that course with the new executive director, pushing through what is necessary for not only this community, but other communities that come in to enjoy our national award-winning library. We're going to be okay over there.
Yeah, I think that's
take a little time.
It's one of the important takeaways is you're not looking to blow it up
No.
and start over. And the legacy of the passionate board members who may no longer be serving is that they built the foundation.
Yes.
Now, a new layer has to be put onto that to take it into this, as you say, a new direction to meet the needs that have evolved over time. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And very appreciative of what they've been able to do. And we look forward for new horizons at our Waukegan Library.
Yeah, people forget you mentioned the award winning, the number of times that it has been recognized. So clearly those other board members knew what they were doing and provided valuable contributions.
Yes.
So since George Floyd was killed during the Memorial Day weekend, calls for social justice and protest have really posed significant challenges for many cities. And of course, the one comes closest to mind is Kenosha, just a few miles up the road. As mayor, how are you working with law enforcement, with the state of Illinois and neighboring communities, while at the same time protecting the right of people who have peaceful demonstrations to protest? What's the balance there, and how are you accomplishing that?
Well, I think as we have seen throughout this country and in so many different cities, where unfortunate incidents such as people being killed, some call it murder, it's just tough to even think about that. When we talk about the pandemic, to me, this is a new experience for Sam Cunningham. Growing up on city south side of Waukegan, and I'm kind of post civil rights baby, But you hear, or you kind of got remnants of those things. It was certainly my mom and that community kind of shielded us when we were kids from that. And you would thought this would probably never surface again. Here it is, in the 21st century. We're dealing with some of those issues. First, we need to own up to the fact what they are. The George Floyd, in my opinion, is not policing. Own it, accept it, but learn from it. What has Waukegan, or what is Waukegan doing? Let me first say to protesters, and I say to all of you now, if you want to protest, fine, come on. We want you to. This is a city of immigrants in the city of Waukegan. We are the bedrock of America. You protesting is just a sign of who we are and what we are, not in this country, but certainly in Waukegan, Illinois. But if we're going to do it, hell, let's do it in a way that your message is effective and is not interrupted. I say, come on in, speak with our traffic division and say, we want to protest. We want to walk down Grand Avenue, turn up Genesee, come up Washington. Let us help you with that planning. So it's meaningful, so it's effective, and your message is not interrupted sometimes by those who have different thoughts in mind. That's the first thing. So if that's something you want to do, come on in. But I ask that you don't do it within 24 hours. Give us some time to plan. That's certainly one of the things that we ask. We're going to, we will use our resource of police, fire, public works to make sure that you have a good route, good, safe route. Block off the cars. City Hall, I think we did one at City Hall. That's the first thing. The second, what are some of the things that we think that is necessary from a city, more importantly, police department, fire department, public works to be doing? One of those things is this: neighborhood policing. It's called neighborhood policing today, but how I can remember it was called beat cop. The cop walked down the street and you know who it was. Then it moved into the dare cop. For me at East Campus, it was Joe Rakovich. And we didn't even call him officer. It was Mr. Rakovich. We certainly need to get back to that, and that's something Waukegan, Illinois is doing. We're at neighborhood watch meetings. When issues come in about cars being parked on the street and should be, I don't send the parking enforcement. I ask neighborhood police to go knock on the door. Where is it at? So then you can get to know the officer, the person behind the badge. Those are just fundamental things. And honestly, that's the Waukegan spirit, Joe. I say Joe, I mean Hal. You talk about your mom and dad having a rooney room named after them because everyone knew your mom and dad. That same philosophy must then be transferred over to our police officers. Officer White was, when I was alderman, it was Andy White. They had nicknames. Hollywood. Hollywood was Joe Floor. This is what we want. And when we get to that point, now you're building a relationship with the community. I'm very excited that Waukegan was, if not the first community, certainly the first community in the state of Illinois, definitely within the county, body cameras. And I was an alderman then, there was a little resistance from our officers. But today, that is the best tool to capture what's going on. And obviously there are procedures in place for when it should be on, when it should be off, how they can be used and things like that. And let's not forget, cell phone cameras, they are an asset to this whole bridging of the gap of them versus us. Working together is certainly going to be the key. We have developed a relationship with Safe Place. When there is a domestic issue that's going on, that a call that's come in from the police department, we have almost like a counselor here to walk not only our officers, but the potential victims through that process. We have retained a consultant, R.J. Harrison Associates, just to go through various trainings of sensitivity training, how to interact with the different communities, where some of the complaints are coming in on the calls. This is the measure that police departments throughout this country need to be doing. You can't wait for a situation to happen and then want to build a relationship. Those relationships have been built, and I think the cities who do that most, who efficiently and effectively continue to do it and be open to new ways of doing it, those are going to be the ones who can get over the hump when unfortunate incidents that leads to the death of innocent people will occur. So I'm happy to say these are some of the things that we are doing, but we are by no means do we close the door to learning new or having new ideas to approach a building that partnership with community, business partners, and more importantly, making sure we have law and order within our communities. And that's the bottom line. But it takes us all in order for that to be achieved.
And it certainly sounds like you're at the leading edge of this, because I think that that's one of the messages that get lost when people hear buzzwords like redirecting funding or defund the police or whatever. In many cases, what the objective is to get those social services embedded with the police so that the police are not trying to handle something that is really outside of a specific policing duty.
And I call it stay in your lane. Having those social services available to help us to understand really what's going on. And I'm gonna close out on this subject with this. We have we are working with a mediation agreement with the Department of Justice. It's not a consent decree, it's a mediation agreement, which all communities have the opportunity to call up the Department of Justice and say, hey, what do you think about what we're doing right now? So the Department of Justice would then come in and say, you know what, I like this, you can tweak this a little bit better, and then come up with an agreement and then push that out. I have continued that under then it was Mayor Motley who started it, agreed upon by me I voted for it, of course, as an alderman. But look for ways to call up the Department of Justice, say, hey, what can we be doing better based on the information that you see that other cities who had issues? I think those are key ingredients of making sure we stay on top of these, particular hot issues. And they change depending on your demographics.
Absolutely. Well, collaboration certainly beats confrontation any day of the week. So
always have in my book.
So let's talk about community development for a minute. I mentioned at the outset that most of the Waukegan Main Street members, that if they're not in the government or the public sector, they're small businesses that are just trying to survive the pandemic and contribute to the quality of life here in Waukegan. What are some of the economic development things that bode well for the city of Waukegan that are either in progress now or on the table for the future?
I think we have, I was just talking to a building commissioner, Mike Pertel, and Mike was just telling me, looking at our, what we call building permit fee numbers. Wow, we're doing a fantastic job on that end. And simply what that is, for those who do not know, whenever you're doing some upgrades or there's new development that's going on in your community, you must first get a building permit. And the building permits indicates exactly really what type of building is going on in your community. Our numbers are 10-15% better than last year. And let me tell you about some of those things that's going on. Really excited, not only for them, but for us as well. And this is the heart of Main Street. College of Lake County has finally received the funding for their new 6-story building in downtown Waukegan. We were just on a Zoom call last council meeting, going over some of the high-level details about what's going to happen. I think that's a $45 million project right here in the heart of Main Street, downtown Waukegan. Not only are they going to build new structure, but they're going to rehab or upgrade the existing structure. For those who do not know, College of Lake County Lakeshore campus has roughly about a third of our downtown. So that's going to be a significant piece in rebuilding that downtown, which is going to add new program. What does that mean? Bringing new bodies into our downtown area. The Barwell unit, Waukegan Housing Authority, which is the same housing authority which I grew up in. They are in a $45 million total gut rehab new construction on the city southeast side of town, where they're going to demolish old units, what we call two-level units, totally demolish, and new construction on that. That's going on as we speak today. As you know, the bridge development ongoing. They're in the last phase of their development. I think the building permit well over $100 million. So those are the things that we're managing through as you and I speak today. Town Place Suites, which is another hotel that's going to be located near the old Service Merchandise, but now called Sundance Saloon. So that's a $5 million project. I'm looking for us to be issuing an RFP for our lakefront. What do I mean by that? For many years, as you know, Hal, we have been trying to find a way to get past our industrial past. And it's been difficult. And no part of there's nothing that we did wrong. It's been some cleanup. There's been some more cleanup and some more cleanup. And that's just been where we're at over the last 20 years. We're finally at the end of that cleanup. City of Waukegan, through the wisdom of of my predecessor, bought the engineering building of the old Bombardier OMC. So city owns that. Now it's time for us to say, what is the use for this property? For me, I believe recreation entertainment. I believe that we can be the Northern Navy Pier of Waukegan. We sit between two metropolitan cities that you have to pass through our community on 3 linear miles of lakefront property, the largest on that Great Lakes shoreline. I personally believe that we can do a lot of recreational deals, but that's Sam Cunningham's belief. We need to get to the experts to identify and tell us what is that course. So that's one of the things we're certainly going to be doing up within the next year and a half too. The real future of Waukegan, and I know I've been dubbed the casino mayor, and I accept that narrative all day and all night, because that is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an entertainment center in Lake County, in Waukegan, for Lake County, better yet, the northern part of the state of Illinois. Why? We sit right on the crust of 94, 294, 43, 41, all of your state and interstate interchanges. Right there. Entertainment center is what that includes a casino. Makes sense for it to be in Waukegan, Illinois, at Fountain Square. And we're pushing forward for that. Certainly we're waiting for the decision to be made of who the Illinois Gaming Board makes that decision with. But we're ready. We're ready to sell the property. We're ready to work with them. We're ready to bring in 1,200 new jobs. We're ready to add the revenue, add on to what we're already doing. And that's one thing that our small business people are telling us every day of the week. Mayor, you want us to invest? Why don't you invest? That's what we're doing today. Investing in Waukegan through our infrastructure. From our roads to our sidewalks, to our water lines, to our sewer lines. That's what we're doing. And we're going to continue to do that over the next 10 to 15 years. As long as I'm the mayor of this community, we deserve to have good roads, good sewer water, good water lines, just a great place for people to want to call their own. Last but not least, Hal, is this. Our biggest future, biggest asset is our water plant. Investing into that water plant, where we can increase the capacity from where we're at today to around 25 million per day. Talk to those neighboring communities out west, understandably, that the wells are going to run out much sooner than later. Why not Waukegan be the supplier for water throughout this county? We have the facility. We're upgrading to make sure it's efficient and effective to do that. So those are the things that we're going to be investing in the city of Waukegan, not just today, not just 4 years, but over the next 10 to 15 years, and having a good plan to make sure we maintain these things. That's the key to this. So our cost is simply not from just doing it, it's the maintaining it. We must have a sustainable process in place to sustain it, which costs dollars. But as long as our taxpayers see that we're investing those dollars wisely, I believe that they will understand that investing in our community is not a should be. It is a must if we want to have the residents to build up in our community. And I'm very proud of that.
Well, you've mentioned some very specific projects, CLC, that's really exciting news, because if that facility gets built, the number of people that it's going to bring into downtown clearly going to help the downtown or the Main Street business community, no ifs, ands, or buts. The casino will be a magnet for jobs from all over. What has always intrigued me is the lakefront development from Mayor Sabanjan, the original Mayor Sabanjan, in his second go-round after he succeeded Mayor Morris. In the very first mayor's luncheon I went to, this program, after he was put back in office for the second time, he rolled out his lakefront development program. And the issue has always been the infrastructure to support it, the roads, the access, et cetera, ever since the Amstutz Expressway project was abandoned. So without getting into the weeds too much on that, Mr. Mayor, how do we get the people from that corridor of 43, 41, I-94, 294 to the downtown area?
Well, and I tell you one thing that we simply have to do. Aesthetically, it's not pleasing to come into Waukegan. Own it. I accept it. We've identified $550 million of infrastructure is going to take. That's to bring us up to par. For you golfers out there, that means to break even. We have put together a capital improvement plan that essentially lays this out not just for this 5 years, but every 5 years to do that. So that's part one. Part two is State of Illinois owns 120 and Grand Avenue. We are in constant contact with them, working through our state and national state leaders to say, you got to invest. This is the beltway into downtown Waukegan to do county business. They're hearing us. We are in the midst of trying to get on their engineering, what they call engineering first. That's the first thing. Second, it goes back to what other amenities can we add to that beach area, lakefront area that will draw people in. That's where the entertainment piece comes in at. Listen, we all go to Navy Pier, right? You tell me one person in this room throughout the northern shore does not like to go to Chicago and deal with the traffic. Raise your hand. Nobody does. But what has Navy Pier been able to do? It has been able to provide entertainment meccas that draw people in. And I'm certainly not trying to be in competition with them, but I can be a substitute for the Lake Countyans that live in this community by saying from 3,000 to 5,000 people to come into our downtown area, into our lake with the right activities. That's why I truly believe that entertainment will be the key. And we've started some of those things. We have, and I would never, in my wildest dreams, think that people would do this. It's is it surf kiting, where you kite along Lake Michigan. Now, I'm not going to be the one, Hal, to do that. I'm here to tell you.
I thought you were an athlete.
But I certainly, I see there's an attraction there. The other attraction, sharing our shore, bird watching. And for me, I look at all of the dunes as get me a lawnmower and let me go through it. But that has been one of the biggest assets that has kind of fell into our laps because of how the sand is being accumulated on our beach. Where birds, different type of birds, now come and now nest here, come here as they migrate in different places, and it has brought in what? It has brought in a tourist attraction, well over 300 to 400 bird watchers into Waukegan. Mind-boggling. But it happens here. Will we get that 10,000, 20,000? No. But I think an accumulation of our surf kiting, our bird watchers, with our normal beach goers, with one of the most brilliant venues on our lakeshore, Steiner Pavilion. What an incredible drop that you have there as the boats come through and you're at the Steiner Pavilion in a social event and they come through, they sound their horn, they cheer as things going on. If we can move to that, having venues down there, we have an existing market already, Hal. We have the Navy base that does graduation that brings in 2,300 to 2,500 people per week. We have Illinois State Beach. We have Great America. We have the water park. We have these existing markets that are here who are saying, I only can go to Great America so many times. Let's give them a different outlet. So working with our Lake County tourism partners to say, here's a venue that these same existing markets can come to, compounding what other things that can be developed or happen on that 3 linear miles of beach. But we need to make sure that that is a viable outlet for people to come. That's why having that RFQ to help us to develop this. So as it will take time for this to develop, we have some existing things that we're doing that we know that are working, but I think, well, I know it's time to take it to another level, and another level is getting those who are in the business, who knows this market much better than we do, to bring them, to partner with them, so we can fully craft us an idea of where we want to go with that.
It also, I think, speaks to the need for all of us, members of Main Street, members of the community, to make sure that we stay in contact with our state representatives, Rita Mayfield as an example, and whoever will be the new senator from the 30th District, because if the 120 corridor and the 132 are to a large degree dependent on funding from the state,
yes, then
we have to make sure that we push that awareness to those state officials.
Yeah, and one of my role as mayor, Hal, has been really rekindling a lot of relationships with state legislators, national leaders, various social organizations. I want them to know that we're partnering with you. What barriers that you think that you have with Waukegan, that we need to remove those barriers so we can move forward with trying to get past our industrial past, I thought was easy. It was just say, hey, we want to do it. But there is a lot of road work that we have to do. Rebuilding some relationships, severing some other relationships, but more importantly, focusing on what our identity is for Waukegan, Illinois, is today and will be in the future. But at the same time saying, I'm not forgetting about my past, but that is our past. Concentrate on our present and our future by knowing what we can and cannot do. And that has really been a quite interesting role for me as you know, a hometown boy, you know, and I love that past. But, you know, every now and then I get with staff, Mayor, that was then, this is now. If we don't accept what that future is for this community, we'll never get past that. And I think that's where we're at right now. It is being embraced, and part of that embracing because we're starting to invest in our community and infrastructure. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about that infrastructure. There is an old rail line that exists east of Market Street, which was the coal line. It took the coal from wherever it was coming from down to the old Commonwealth Edison plant. Talk about our past. That line right now has not been in use, and I'm 53 years of age. And we are having some good conversation with CN about relinquishing that line and giving that over to the city. And working with Lake County Forest Preserve, City of North Chicago, we'll be able to take that and bridge that walk path from the North Shore walk path to opening up for potential housing development. But to your point, until the line is gone, there's nothing that we can do. So there's a lot of history that we have to get rid of in order for our future to be as bright as we want it to be. And these are the partnerships that we are trying to just continue to work through right now. But we're making some progress.
For a minute there, I thought we were going to have an Agatha Christie murder mystery train ride in our future, but but I hear you. It needs to be cleaned up to make it accessible for a new purpose and
Yes.
the next generation. So speaking of Fantasy Island, you know, one of the rumors going around is that possibly the new casino might have a racino, might actually have a horse racing track. I understand from your perspective that we don't necessarily have the land requirement for that.
No, we do not. We heard some rumblings of that, and you know, as I stated earlier, we have been awarded a casino to have a casino in Waukegan. That is the direction that this city is moving toward. A racino, from my understanding, needs a considerable amount of acreage in order to do that. One, that doesn't currently exist that I know of in the city of Waukegan where we own that property. And for someone to give up that much acreage for a racino, it's just not in our it's not within our future at this time. What's in our future is a casino. Is Illinois Gaming Board is to make a decision on which one of the proposals they're going to take. Then for that come back to this body, and for us to understand that the infrastructure must be in place for that to happen. We're putting together a plan for that, and us to move forward with that project. Anything outside of that, we're always open. But we're going to go with what we have in front of us, and that is to make sure that this entertainment center that includes casino is one of the best in the northern part of the state of Illinois that can give us the tools that we need to help us continue to rebuild our Waukegan, Illinois.
So with the pandemic, one of the things that has been really lost are the small community festivals that take place, et cetera. And traditionally, this past weekend would have been the Hispanic Heritage Month kickoff that actually kicks off tomorrow, September 15th, October 15th. Mexican Independence Day is this Wednesday. And I understand there was a kind of an unsanctioned caravan/parade that went through the route yesterday that would have been part of the traditional thing. But, you know, that is a community that lost one of their focal points this year with the loss of that parade and festival. So what message do you have to the many Waukegan Latino community members about what is being done to kind of support that community from a city standpoint?
Well, we have been in constant contact with our Latino community all the time. I mean, I am deeply involved in throughout Waukegan, which you know is roughly 65–70% of our population. I personally have supported it on the ground since my automatic days. Now as mayor, we've teamed up with a social organization led by Mr. Fernando Bahia from La Canoa, who put his own resources in to make sure that this celebration goes on throughout the Latino community, which now includes your Belizean community, Honduras community, Cuban community, and they exist in Waukegan. We support anything that they feel in celebrating within the guidelines that have been set out by the Illinois Department of Public Health, Lake County Health Department, certainly the CDC, and they've truly embraced that aspect. Everyone has just been crippled with this, and it's unfortunate for something such as so meaningful to our base community. We will say to that Latino, celebrate using those guidelines. The most important thing is we want you to be safe. And as we push past this pandemic, we will have opportunities to celebrate with you. And the city of Waukegan has partnered with that social organization so we can be a partner with them. We want you to celebrate so all of us can enjoy your understanding of your heritage. Just in Juneteenth, while it may be a Latino celebration, in Waukegan, we want to celebrate with you. In order to do that safely, unfortunately, these are the necessary things we have to do now in order for us to do it for the future. And I know that our Latino community will do that. And once this is over, we can have the real party that we're looking for. And Hal, you and I will lead the way.
There you go. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you a completely non-Waukegan but a societal question. The U.S. Census. We're down to the final run-up. I think we have 2 weeks left to respond if you haven't done it online or you have not yet been contacted by one of the door knockers. They still have that old-fashioned way going through, or a phone call solicitation. But talk to us about the importance of responding to this census and why it's so critical to the future of Waukegan, including from our Latino and Latinx community, that we get that census form filled out.
First of all, right now, the city of Waukegan's current census tract, population-wise, we're at right around, I'm around up to 90,000. However, Hal, Waukegan, Illinois, if you take a look at our police call, fire calls, public works, city services, we service well over 100,000 people. I'm going to venture to say we're about 125,000. That's our true number of those who reside in the city of Waukegan. What does that mean? Let's translate that or decode that message. The funding that you receive from the federal government is based on your population. So we're about 30% lagging on our population count. Dollar-wise, I think there's $1,800 per person that we miss. So those dollars can then come back into city government, the most important place, school district. How does that reflect with our biggest population here in Waukegan, the Latino community? It has, and in my opinion, has it been some scare tactics put on our Latino community? Yes, it has been. It's shameful for those who are doing that. The goal is to be counted. So we're asking our Latino community, which is right now is the most undercounted ethnic group in Waukegan. Second behind that is African Americans. Who needs to service the most in this particular community of Waukegan? Those two ethnic groups. We need their help in making sure that we get counted. Why? The dollars that we receive are the dollars that we're going to then put back into your neighborhoods. Make sure you have the proper educational process in the city of Waukegan. School funding. By not having the correct count, we suffer, not we Waukegan suffer. And we're putting a push out, a big push out to these neighborhoods where we're knocking at. We understand you're reluctant. We understand that the information you think could be used elsewhere. There's constitutional law that will prohibit that information being utilized outside of what it should be. But we need for you to be counted. Counted 2020 is not for the city of Waukegan, it's for you and for me to give us the services that is desperately needed in our central area in Waukegan, Illinois.
Now you said 1,800 per person.
1,800 per person.
So, you told me no math, but my quick math says that if we've got 35,000 people undercounted at 1,800 apiece, that's about $6 million in additional funding that would come to the city of Waukegan if we got that count, a fair count, an honest count. So,
and I tell you, $6 million we pump back into our economy and into our budgets in order to provide those needed services. Hell, that's huge.
Huge.
And we, Waukegan, out of all the communities throughout Lake County, cannot afford for us to do that. Now, that doesn't mean we don't provide those services. It simply means that there could be a delay in getting certain services that's needed.
Well, it's been a fascinating conversation, Mr. Mayor, and believe it or not, our time is almost up. Thank you so much for answering the Waukegan Main Street member questions. We'll give you 2 to 3 minutes to sum up, and maybe in your closing comments, you can tell us a little bit more about your vision of getting everyone, the citizens, the businesses, the government agencies, to invest in Waukegan.
The close. Wow, I cannot believe the time has passed us this much. It lets you know how much fun that you and I always have when we get together.
We do.
And we try to keep it timely. To close out, everybody, this has truly been a dream for me to be a leader, but more important, to be the mayor of this community. I believe that every young man or every young lady who have a dream about being the mayor of their community after growing up and being a true benefactor of what the city can do or has done for a person, that's Sam Cunningham. The vision that I have is the vision that I think many of us have, and that's to make Waukegan the best city on the face of this earth. But in order to do that, there's some fundamental things that we as a city must do. And I'm not blaming that we neglected, it just didn't happen. And that is investing. When you invest, meaning the city invests in its assets, from its roads to its sidewalks, to its facilities, to the necessary equipment that is needed to provide those services, people see that. Small business owners see that. And then that gives them the courage to invest in their own business, to do one thing, provide a better service to their customers, which are the residents who live here. And if we're able to do that successfully on a continuous basis, you're going to find people talking about what Waukegan is doing versus Waukegan asking, look what other communities are doing. I want to be on the forefront of that. So I'm here to tell you, this mayor is committed to making sure that we continue to invest in Waukegan on all levels. And we believe that investment will pay off by having our small business partners do the same thing with their business to provide better services. So I look forward, Hal, to continuing this investment process through capital improvement plans, to identifying other areas in city government that we can contribute to investing. And one of those investments is cleaning up some of our old dilapidated buildings, meaning that we're going to be the ones to tear down these buildings. We're also going to be the ones to put a little lien on them as well. But I look forward to continuing as your leader to see this investment process out for Waukegan. But more importantly, I look forward to all of you saying that this is your home, Waukegan, Illinois, as I do.
Well, thank you very much once again, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the many members of Waukegan Main Street who joined us online via the YouTube channel from the City of Waukegan for the 2020 edition of Lunch with the Mayor. If you would like to view the program again, or if you have friends or business associates who might be interested in hearing the Mayor's comments today, a link will be provided on both the City of Waukegan and the Waukegan Main Street websites later this week. Special thanks to Waukegan Main Street for producing Lunch with the Mayor, including Executive Director Josh Beadle, Board President Tamika Jones, and the all-volunteer Main Street Board of Directors. We'd also like to thank the City of Waukegan for providing their City Council chambers for today's program, and to Dave Motley and his team for coordinating our virtual meeting production. This concludes Waukegan Main Street's 2020 Lunch with the Mayor. Please monitor our website at www.waukeganmainstreet.org for important information about future events and activities, and thanks again for viewing today's program. For Mayor Sam Cunningham, the City of Waukegan, Waukegan Main Street, and Northern Illinois Consulting, I'm Hal Coxon.